All right, what is up, folks? Welcome back to another episode, not a nupper, another episode of Lifting, Running, and Living with your favorite, still coaches, Kelly.
Hello.
Hey, and JK, that is me. And
We also have co-host Pumpkin.
yeah, Pumpkin in the house.
If
So,
you're watching the video, you probably just saw him chewing on my drawstrings.
should I give him time to introduce himself?
No, he's just chilling.
Just
He is
tends to
purring
only
though.
talk once you start talking, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. Well, as we always start off every episode, let's start off with some updates before getting into today's topic, which is going to be running advice for the casuals / the normies, just your average everyday runner. We're going to offer some running advice for you. Before getting into that, Kelly, what is going on with you?
All right. So I've got a couple things going on. So this first one has been going on for a while though. My youngest brother decided that he wants to run a marathon.
Okay.
And I convinced him to do a half marathon first. So he asked me to coach him. And this was earlier this year.
Okay.
So I just want to bring this up because this past week he just ran his first double digit run. So he ran 10 miles, which is really exciting. So
Hey.
I just wanted to shout him out. He has his first half marathon on June 1st in San
Okay.
Diego. I will
Nice.
be in attendance, which will be fun. Yeah. And then he, as far as I know, as of this recording, is still thinking about a marathon later in the year,
Okay.
building off of half marathon training. So
Okay. So
yeah.
what's that dynamic been like so far with coaching your brother?
It's been fun for me. As the eldest sibling, all I want in life is for my brothers to ask me for help for things, you know?
Okay, that's fair.
So it's really fulfilling me. Uh, and hopefully it's helping him, he thinks. But I mean, he's getting free coaching, so a free
Okay.
plan custom to him. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's the most he's run, or it's like the most consistently he's run just for like running's sake. Like he played a lot of sports growing up, like I did, um, but he's never like trained
Yeah.
for a race. It is kind of, he says this will be his only like big race he's going to train for, like one
Okay.
and done, which will be nice for me because if he starts training for when we run the 5K together, I will no longer have a pacing partner.
Yeah.
You know, he'll leave me
Yeah.
in the dust because if anyone has listened before, you listen to the 5Ks, he hops in the race with me and paces me the whole time, whereas I've been training for months to
Right.
run faster, but he can just kind of do it. So if he starts getting really in shape, I'm doomed.
Now, when you say that he's going to do it as a one and done, does that mean he doesn't intend to do any other events at all, or is this for this year?
I think just the longer events, like he'll hop in 5Ks every now and then, but I don't think as of now his
Oh,
intention is not to like train for more half marathons or more marathons.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, what's behind the suggestion of doing the marathon instead of the half, knowing that if you knew at the time this was going to be a one shot deal?
Well, he came to me first asking for me to train him for a marathon,
Right.
but at the time that the half is going to be, and he came to me I think in late January, early February, and I was like, I would really recommend a longer time frame for a first time marathoner. Uh,
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah, and like it is twofold. Like you do the half marathon, you figure out, do I want to continue
Yeah.
doing training this way, knowing that the long runs are going to get longer, but you kind of have a taste of how it's going to be going into the half marathon and see like, do I want to commit to this for more months? Or like, is a half marathon enough? So we'll see what he decides. I think he's pretty set on the marathon, but he hasn't
Yeah.
chosen one yet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well, sending him all the supportive vibes. You'll have to update us and let us know how that goes.
I will.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other one, this will be just a little quick one. My parents are in town, so we all know they're listening. Shout out mom and dad. They're visiting my niece. The
But
little baby.
I was going to ask if they're right outside the door just listening live. You have a live studio audience or something.
No. They stayed with us this weekend and they went back to my brother's house yesterday, which
Okay.
is why we're recording this on another Tuesday. So
Going up on a
it.
Tuesday. It'd be
We
hilarious
moved
if
it
they
on
just pulled
Sunday.
a futon into your room or like a couple chairs and just sat in front of you.
You know, I thought about trying to figure out if we could have them on,
Oh
but
yeah.
like having just Ty on was hard enough with my one microphone. For anyone who doesn't know, I have the Blue Yeti microphone that plugs into my computer.
Yeah.
We're not fancy. We don't have like a switchboard and there's no multiple microphones.
Right.
So if someone comes on that's in person, they're sitting right next to me. And with three of
Yeah.
us, the headphone situation would get weird because obviously if you share headphones, there's only two ears.
Yeah, I'm trying
So,
to think what I would do in that situation. I have one time recorded a podcast episode with my dad where we sat in a hotel room with the blue snowball and just put it
mm,
on that setting. I can't remember the name of the setting, but the setting where it
yeah,
tries to
the,
capture
the
sound
two
from
sides.
all the sides. Yeah. I'm thinking now that I think about it, if I were to try and do that, I would have the other person go to another room and log on from their laptop or something like that, which would seem a bit awkward. However, I know that that podcast with he's a money expert, Ramit Sethi, I think is his name. He
Oh,
used to have he has had a Netflix special called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich." I think it's called.
oh,
However, he interviews and has conversations and offers advice for couples. And when he does the remote episodes, they're in the same house, but they're not sitting together. They'll either be on different sides of the room or in opposite
yeah,
rooms and whatnot, which is kind of helpful for the dynamic, actually, too, just
huh,
because I think it also allows them to speak potentially a bit more freely about their opinion, even though it's like same house,
yeah,
they're different rooms. So I don't know.
interesting.
So there, if we ever do an episode where we need folks that are sitting inside of either our houses, we'll just have them go to a separate room, and there you go.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking how we would do it,
Yeah.
and I was thinking we could have the three of us around the microphone, and then I would log in on my phone so I could hear and like give them headphones to
Oh yeah.
share.
Good.
Like
Yeah.
the headphones is the hardest part because
That's true.
for anyone who has not recorded a podcast, if you don't have headphones in, you'll get like
Echo.
we'll have echo.
So
JK's
much.
voice will be echoing. Our voices will be echoing.
Yeah.
And then it's like really distracting when you're trying to talk back.
Yeah. No,
So,
no fun. 0.5 stars. Do not recommend at
yeah.
all. I've done that once and I will not do that again. Make that mistake. All
Yeah.
right. Well, cool.
But yeah, it's been fun. They're in town. We'll see them again this coming weekend, which happens to be Mother's Day too. So
Yes. Yes.
shout
Yes.
out to all the moms because
Yep.
this will come out Friday and then we won't have another episode until after.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Yes. Okay, and then my last update is I changed my Instagram handle, which is,
Oh,
I don't know, I guess worth mentioning.
okay. Are you going to mention what you changed it to, or are you just going to leave
Oh,
folks
yeah.
in mystery?
I changed it to Running Klutz. I mean, if you search Kelly Lutz,
Oh,
I'll come up.
okay.
It just won't be Coaching Klutz anymore.
I didn't even look. Like you had responded to something or sent me a message, but I didn't even look what name it came from because I just knew it was you. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my picture is the same. Klutz is still in the name.
Running cuts. Okay.
Yeah, Coaching Klutz just doesn't feel right anymore since I'm
It's
I'm
such
phasing
a
out.
the the klutz part is just so it's such an easy branding move
Yeah,
though, because it can be anything klutz. Like if you decide that you're going to start doing like singing klutz.
I will never do that.
It was just an example. You know, I don't know. You decided to do twerk videos, twerking klutz, all sorts of
I,
things.
mm-mm.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
but yeah, Klutz will always be in whatever I do. I
Hmm.
want it to be just Klutz, but of course that's taken.
Oh, it is. Okay.
There's a lot that are taken. I try to do like K. Lutz, so it's still Klutz, but like
Hmm.
that's taken. Kelly Lutz is taken.
I think klutz is actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's taken.
Okay. Well,
That's how I landed on Running Klutz because there was like nothing else. So,
gotcha.
I'm not super sold on it, but it feels better than coaching klutz.
Yeah, I say go with it.
Yeah.
Just go with it.
I mean, it's just an Instagram handle, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. It's not
Yeah.
your make or break. Okay.
Yeah. If anyone follows me, all I go on Instagram for anymore is so I can post memes about Virgos or cats.
Yeah, fair enough. Totally fair.
Yeah. Yeah. But what's up with you?
Well, let's see. As of this recording, so I've been back home in Illinois for, let me see, we got back on Friday, so about 4 or 5 days, I guess that would be. Time is kind of running together right now. So went down to Alabama for dual purpose. One purpose was to get my daughter moved back from school, so she has wrapped up her year. I was going to say semester, which it is the semester, but wrapped up her freshman year,
Yeah.
and by all general standards, a very, very successful year. So super proud of her. She had a really solid first year, and now she is back in the swing of doing her thing here at home, working and hanging out with friends and all that good stuff.
Nice.
So dual purpose was getting her moved out and then also spending some time with my parents, who are within about, we'll call it within about 80 miles of the campus. So yeah, I know. For those of you who are like, wait, what's that little thing all about? I purposely now, anytime that there's something dealing with like mileage, I try not to identify how far away it is as far as time, like an hour to an hour and a half. I will say, if I can figure out the mileage, I'll say, 70 to 80 miles away. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And now it's just become a thing to annoy Kelly, because sometimes I like to be petty. What can I say? Anyways, um, two things. So one thing, as far as the just observations, because I like to observe random things. So
Yep.
one thing with the move out process, that it was wildly different than the moving on to campus process. So I think I
Mm.
probably mentioned this when we recorded after I had been down there. My wife and I both went down for the move in process. At University of Alabama, like super smooth move in process to the
Yeah.
dorms. I mean, they had that on lock. Like, I yeah, I can't rave enough about it. Like, it's like Chick-fil-A drive-through level good.
Oh, they're
Yeah,
so efficient
they're
there.
so smooth, like so smooth. It was ridiculous. And then the move out process would be the opposite of that, because
Oh,
it's pretty much a free for all. And
yeah.
also, this is not intended to be any sort of a complaint, because um, a big portion, from what it seemed like, a big portion of why the move in process runs so smooth is because they have upperclassmen who volunteer to
Oh,
help out with the whole process throughout campus. And also, it looked like they also had a third party that had been hired to help with loading and unloading vehicles and things like that. However, I can completely see that why, with a majority or a lot of the help, I'm not going to say majority, but a lot of the help being upperclassmen during move out, like they've got to move out too. They've got finals, they got things to do also.
yeah.
So what was helpful is in one specifically, like one of the helpful parent groups, because some of them are not helpful at all. In one of the parent groups, quite a few people, and then also a couple people that I know, had given me the inside tip of, if you have any flexibility to possibly like get down there days before the final like move out date, try to get down there to either like take a couple different trips and whatnot. So I was just like, well, my parents are
Mm.
pretty close to campus, so I can just basically camp out there while my wife held it down here at home. So I was down there for 8 or 9 days. Like, it was a pretty lengthy trip
Wow.
down there. So yeah, move out process, that was all taken care of. And the day that, so her last day on campus was the day that Trump came to do the speech on campus at University of Alabama.
Oh.
He spoke at a commencement event. It was not the commencement.
Mhm.
Contrary to his statement that University of Alabama took 8 or 9 events and combined them into one for him, that was not the case. That was actually not the case. I know people will be shocked. that something you said is incorrect. Um, but that was not the case. This was a separate event from commencement, like completely separate from commencement.
Huh.
So anywho, yeah, we headed off a few hours before he arrived into town, and then yeah, just in spending that amount of time, a bit over a week, I had some flexibility, and so found a couple of different trails that are down in the Birmingham area within, I'd say,
Mhm.
about 20 to 30 minutes. So went to one spot, I think it was called Turkey Creek, that had a few different trails. So that was cool. All walking. I did no running whatsoever. So that was cool. And then there's another place called Vulcan Park, I believe. Now the Vulcan Park one is like fully paved and the whole
Mm.
nine. And I think it's like 2 miles out and back or something like that, 2.5. What's really cool though is at the starting point, there's a landing that kind of overlooks the entire city. So you can see like the
Oh.
city of Birmingham, like downtown and all that stuff. So yeah, that was cool. So, use that to get in some additional movement and just, took some time to catch up on some stuff with coaching and whatnot. I was still working, but had plenty of flexibility to do that. So yeah, just overall pretty solid trip all the way around. And then now, like I said, I've been back for about 4 days. It takes me usually about a week to really get back into any sort of a rhythm. So I'm kind of halfway
Yeah.
through that. Yeah, about halfway through that right now. So that's what I've been up to since we last recorded.
Is the gym with the cool lighting the one you always go to down there?
Yeah. Yeah, so when I'm in Birmingham, it's a gym called, it's called Armor Gym, Armor. Yeah, so it's called Armor Gym, and I think the city that it's specifically located in is called Irondale, which is like a suburb-ish
Hmm. Okay.
of Birmingham. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'll be posting some workouts on my main page within the
Mhm.
next probably week or so whenever I get those put together. So folks will know kind of what you're you're talking about if they happen to look on my Instagram and didn't see it in the stories. It's it's cool to be in, however, from a proper lighting for a video standpoint, not great. Like
It kinda looks like a club.
yeah, that one half of the gym is lit up like that. It's exactly like that. And also there's like murals on the wall of
Mhm.
like bodybuilders and some CrossFit athletes, which is kind of wild because the guy that
Huh.
owns it is definitely not into CrossFit in any way, shape, or form. But
Interesting.
and he just has the female CrossFit. I'm pretty sure it's about how they look. I'm about positive. I'm like positive now as I think about it. I'm like, wait, there's no male CrossFitters up there. Yeah, so it's about like jacked females basically.
Mm.
But yeah, the place it has it has so much cool equipment that is ridiculous. Like if I could just do legs every day when I'm there, I'd be completely fine because there's pretty much like every leg machine known to man. And every time I go back down there when it's been at least 4 months between
Yeah.
visits, there's always a new machine. And same thing this time. He had this standing pec fly machine, which I've
Oh.
never seen in person. Yeah. And so that was like the newest thing. Um,
Huh.
he has like a glute isolation machine that wasn't there before. So like, and anything glutes, I'm like, yep, I'll work that into my program. Fantastic. So yeah, just all around a good time though. It was a good visit. Good to hang out there. And now I'm glad to be back though. I like my rhythm and my routine. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
big
feel
time.
that.
Yep. All right. Well, that's my updates. Anything else before we go ahead and transition here?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So, as I mentioned right from the get go, we are talking about some things that runners, basically at any level, still need to be aware of or still have as part of their routine, even if they identify, or specifically because actually they identify as being a casual. And I'm saying the casual, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way before anybody gets like booty hurt here. I'm not saying that in a casual way, in a derogatory way. That's not my intention. Let me put it that way.
Mhm.
Kelly tried to identify that I'm a casual. I don't know that I identify as none. I don't run enough to identify as a casual
Yeah, and
at
I
all.
run too much to be a casual.
Yeah, basically. I was gonna say there's levels of casual. There's like business casual, sporty casual. Yeah. So some context on where this came from, and then we'll throw these out and get Kelly's insight on these. Is a conversation that I was having with one of my fellow coaches, one of my nutrition coaches that I partner with and write programming for, and we were talking about the um, the training that one of her clients had laid out, and also talking about that in relation to the client's results, like results that
Mm,
they were or weren't seeing. And the nutrition coach was sharing with me, like, yeah, from this aspect, like these are the things we've been doing nutrition wise. And then, hey, here's what's going on with her training. And as we were talking about her training, I was like, man, this is such a common avatar. And the common avatar is yeah, I mean, I'm not training for any specific running event. I might occasionally hop into a 5K here or there, like a Turkey Day run. Typically, if they live, depending on where they live, there's some sort of like here in Illinois, we have a bunch of like lake runs and stuff like
mm,
that. Like they'll pop into maybe 2 or 3 things a year, but it seems like kind of like how you described your brother earlier, where he can just jump into a 5K, right?
yeah,
So this individual, like this avatar, is somebody who I'd call them the casual. They run, let's say, 2 to 3 times a week.
okay,
Usually they run for about a half hour to 40 minutes. They're usually running about 2 to 3 miles. It's usually somewhere like through their neighborhood or through a park or whatnot.
yep,
Occasionally they'll meet up with friends. They're like chit chatting as they run, like all that stuff. Okay. So that's generally the overall avatar that I'm presenting. And one of the things that the coach and myself got to talking about was just this idea of, okay, well, are they acknowledging that that's actually still activity? Because they're like,
yeah,
oh, I don't really do, I just, they're like, I lift a couple times a week, and then I just go for runs, but nothing major. And I'm like, oh, so you're running like 2 to 3 times a week. Okay. And then like sometimes what I'll see is like not taking into account like that is activity
hmm
and should be accounted for uh, in a few different aspects, stuff like that.
yeah,
So I came up with 5 things. I'm going to run by Kelly here. So 5 things
yes,
that, from my perspective, as somebody who doesn't specifically coach running, that runners at any level should still have as part of their routine. So we'll get Kelly's feedback on this. So number one, in no particular order, but in number one, I said warming up. So I give you nothing specific to talk about, but when it comes to warming up, needs to be a part of it. More hype
everyone
than
needs to
helpful.
warm up.
Okay.
I wish everyone would warm up, I should say.
Okay.
Uh yeah, it just really helps. It helps you feel better, one, when you once you actually start running. Um we talked about it before. I think it was on this podcast, it might have been my own, but it's also a good way, like one of my favorite warm-ups is to do the side to side monster walk with the band around my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like the hip flexor marches with the band around my feet. So it's like not necessarily strength training, right? But it's a good way to
Yeah.
strengthen some little muscles and warm them up,
That's a really helpful
especially.
one for psoas issues too, by the
Mm.
way. I'm talking to the pickleballers out there. So anyways, okay,
Oh,
continue. Continue.
sidebar first.
Yeah.
I was asking my parents if they've gotten into pickleball because they
Yeah.
mentioned it, and I was like, my dad has some knee issues, and I was like, you
Mhm.
should be careful of your knees if you do get into pickleball. And my mom was like, yeah, I heard JK say that there's probably a lot of blown knees out there because of this.
I know pickleball people think I hate, and I don't. I have not tried it yet. I haven't played it yet, because I do intend to give it a shot at some point.
It
I'm
looks
just
fun. It's
Yeah,
just
I do. I'm just
most
seeing.
adults are not used to changing direction
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. You think? Yeah. All right. Anyways,
Yeah.
okay.
Anyways, yeah. So
So
warming
definitely
up with
warming up.
bands is really nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if just like glute med is always something I feel like runners are commonly told they need to work on. So like that's a good way to do some little strengthening consistently too. Um, it's a good habit to get into. I also find that it helps just with the transition. Like once I start warming up, I'm just like, okay, it's time to run now. Whatever I was doing before, it's not that time anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, we talked about this kind of like a commute, um, but for your activity, it's like getting in the mind zone of going to run. It's also when I pick out like what podcasts I'm going to listen to. So,
Yeah.
you
Just kind
know,
of getting in the vibe.
yeah. So I would recommend, I mean, it doesn't even have to be long. I think mine's like 5 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes is really all you need. So, like, those band exercises are good. Some form of lunges is good.
Hmm.
Calf raises is good because we use our calves a lot. And then you can do stuff like, I mean, if you want to do like a little plyometrics, you could do some hops,
Yeah.
something like that. It really doesn't have to be complicated. You don't really need anything. I find the bands are just really helpful, um, and
Yeah.
provide more resistance, obviously, but you can do everything without it. When I was doing the group runs, our warm up was we would do like the standing hamstring sweeps.
Hmm. Yep.
Love those. We did lunges. We did standing hip cars, which is just moving your hip through the
Yes.
full range of motion.
Yeah. Those are
Uh,
fantastic. Those are big. Those
yeah,
are a recent favorite of mine.
yeah. And then leg swings,
Yep.
um, which are part of my warm up that I do at home too. All
Front,
those are
back,
really
and side to
good.
side.
Front, back, side to side. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the group runs, it was kind of a double exercise because we were usually standing in a circle. So I would challenge people to try to balance and do it while
Ah.
you're doing the swings,
Oh, yikes.
which like you don't have to do. You can use support,
Yeah. I'm
but
holding on to something.
yeah, it is nice because like for running, balance is important. I
Correct.
feel like it's a forgotten
Yeah.
thing that we need to work on.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like I don't know, pick 3 or 4
Yeah.
exercises from that list just to get started. Oh, actually, I have a YouTube collection of videos for running warm-ups. I'll link
Yeah.
in the show notes too.
Okay. There we go.
I
Okay.
totally forgot about that. But
You're
yeah,
saying
warming up is
you
very
co-sign
useful.
that one then.
I cosign.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, second one. I put down that runners at any level should still have as part of their overall routine would be strength training. So on this particular one, I jotted down that whether you are a casual runner or if you primarily fit the somewhat in the avatar of the person who primarily runs, like that running is the majority of the exercise that you do. So common one that I'll come across is, well, I pretty much just like go for runs. That's kind of my form of exercise, I guess, but I'm still kind of casual with it. And then I go to some classes. Like I'll go to a
Mhm.
couple of, like I'll do a spin class and then I'll do a Pilates class or a core class or a Zumba, like some dance cardio, whatever it might be. And I will recommend like, hey, all good. If you want to continue to do the running a few times a week, I would recommend doing some sort of strength training. And my base, like base, and I'm talking like bare minimum, would be two
Yeah.
times a week. And the thought process behind that would be primarily for two reasons. One, maintain any muscle that you currently do have. And even more importantly than that, potentially, and these go hand in hand, would be injury prevention. So
Yeah.
that would be my recommendation for runners at any level. And what say you?
I mean, we all know I think every human should strength train. So
Hey, there we go. All right, I'm on the
yeah.
right track here. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really helpful to support running. Injury prevention, like you said, is a huge thing. Like the stronger you are, the better you're gonna feel running. And especially if one day you want to take it farther than running 2 to 3 miles a couple times a week, like that'll help you. Uh Obviously I'm more in the realm of people who run,
Yeah.
most days of the week or like running
Insane
ultras,
amounts.
and then it's like super important. Um because your body breaks down over long distances, and the stronger you are, the better you'll feel usually. um but yeah, I think everyone should strength train just to feel better in life too, which we've talked about
Yeah.
ad nauseum.
Yes, and this would also be a point where I would clarify that when I'm talking about strength training here, then what that looks like would be dedicated strength training versus cardio with weights.
Yes.
So I would be talking about something that follows at least, it includes the major movement patterns. So you're doing some sort of upper body pushing, you're doing some sort of lower body squatting, you're doing some sort of upper body pulling, and then you are doing some sort of a hinge, preferably like a loaded hinge. So that could be something like a Romanian deadlift, a conventional deadlift, and then including also some sort of a single leg movement there too.
Mhm.
So I think that push pull squat hinge. I mean, then you get into like lunge, rotation, carry. You can do some other things like that.
Yeah.
However, I would say bare minimum, like let's get those four major movement patterns in 2 times per week, progressively loading them a bit heavier as you possibly can. So that's what I would say as far as like dedicated strength training, not like cardio. So if it's choreographed, it's probably not strength training. That's probably not the main focus. Like that's a pretty
Yeah.
I I'm a strong believer that that's a pretty good criteria, that if it's like you're lifting on the beat, then that
Mm,
probably I don't like getting into the whole like what counts and what doesn't count. I'm just going to
yeah.
say that that's not going to be doing what we're intending to do. So, yeah.
I would also say something that tries to encourage you to get your heart rate up into a certain zone.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so you're talking like Orange Theory, basically.
Yeah, I'm talking Orange Theory.
Yeah. Now the strength, I haven't looked at the programming recently. I know they have the Strength 50 classes, which is primarily like some combo. It's a lot of combo movements, but just folks like just getting into the gym or working with a trainer, and doing things like presses, rows, squats, lunges, Romanian deadlifts, hip thrusts, glute bridges, those particular things, you're usually good to go. So, all right.
Yes.
Let's see. So the third one I have is, I'm not sure where did I get this one from. Overdoing the
Mm,
mileage. So, that runners need to be aware of still overdoing the mileage. So where this one comes into play is usually where somebody's going from like 0 to 100. Like and
mm,
where this typically is coming into play is plantar fasciitis starting to occur,
mm.
where yes, we started with the avatar of the person who's the casual who runs like 2 to 3 miles a week. It's just once in a while they get like a wild hair and they're like, I'm just gonna, I was feeling the runner's high. They try to describe this to me. They're like, I was feeling, that runner's high. And I'm like, no, I do not know that runner's high. I'm like, is it the same as a hip thrusting high? Because I know that. Um, but they just, they're just like, yeah, I don't know. I was feeling pretty good. So I decided to go for, 10 miles.
Yeah.
Or they picked up, this is something that I will find, they start picking up their running volume.
Mhm.
And as we start to unpack that, what it is that like they're seeing the scale go up. So they're thinking, okay, well, I'll
Oh.
just do more cardio in an attempt to do that because I'm already out for a run anyway. So I'll just add some extra. Or from a mindset standpoint, what we're really finding out is they're what they call what I call, not they call, I call it a compensation run.
Mm,
So they're trying to compensate for something that they drank or ate that they are
yeah.
assigning some guilt to. So just my train of thought here is just really still be aware of how much mileage you're actually doing would be the piece that I would throw out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to get at is being cognizant of, like, what is your baseline, and if you increase it, like, what is that relative to your baseline?
Ooh,
And
yeah.
don't go crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's where we see, well, that's one of the places where we see obviously risk of injury goes up a lot. Like if you're used to running, if you're running 2 to 3 miles a couple times a week, like less than 10 miles a week, and then all of a sudden you run 25 miles a week and you keep doing that, like you're really putting yourself not in the best place to succeed. You're putting yourself at a high risk. So, like, if you are increasing volume, like, do it more gradually. You don't have to follow the 10% rule, which I'm sure people have heard of. Like, don't increase your volume by more than 10% week over week. That's just, I, I think that any very nice round number like that you hear as a rule is kind of bullshit. It's just kind of made up out of nowhere,
How do you really
like
feel?
I mean, there's nothing scientific behind that. It's just a nice round number, right? And
Yeah.
like 10%, you can imagine if someone's running 9 miles a week, you're telling them they can only add zero point 0.9 miles the next week, and then the week after that 0.99. Like that's stupid. You can do bigger increases than that when your volume's lower. It's more useful if you're running more miles because like if someone's running 90 miles a week, I mean, 9 miles is a lot to add on to that, I think, but
Yeah.
like you really wouldn't want to do bigger jumps than that, at least not consistently. But yeah, just being like cognizant of what you normally do, and especially going along with nutrition, which I know we're going to talk about recovery at some point.
Hmm.
If you are increasing your running, you should probably also increase your intake, um, unless you're working with someone and trying to lose weight, and then obviously that's a different
Yeah. Different
scenario.
animal.
Yeah, different animal. But if you're just trying to like vibe on the runs,
Ooh.
as you run more, you should eat more.
Yeah. I have a question with that.
Yeah.
So, and I'll try and keep it as not vague, but I'll try not to make it like super specific.
Okay.
So say that somebody is typically running, let's say about 10 miles a week on
Okay.
average over 3 runs on
Okay.
average. Okay. So they run about 10 miles a week, 3 day total of, yeah, 10 miles over 3 days. And let's say that they are increasing their mileage. So I don't know, they now add another 15 minutes. So that's another 45 minutes per week. So mileage goes up. So the thought
Mhm.
process is, okay, well, I was listening to the episode and Kelly did mention, hey, if you're going to be upping your mileage, like be cognizant of that. You may need to up certain things nutrition wise.
Yeah.
Where, where would be, where would you recommend that input, they input more nutrition? Like input more
Ooh.
calories. So here's a piece of context for that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, here's a piece of context for that. When I first got into lifting weights, right?
Mhm.
Like I'll never forget like the day that I decided like, okay, I'm going to take this a lot more seriously. And I've told this story on my podcast. I got fired from my full-time job. I was really inconsistent in the gym, but I was at least going at that
Yeah.
point. But I lost my full-time job. And then the very next day I was like, okay, well, I'm going to commit to, looking for a job. And also I'm not going to be looking for a job like 24 hours a day. So I need to make sure I go to the gym each day because then I can build up this habit. And then once I find a full-time job, I'll already build up the habit. I've done a whole
Yeah.
podcast on this. Okay. So one of the things that I did is I went into Supplement Superstore on Manchester Road in St. Louis. Shout out. I'll never forget that experience. So I go in and I talk to the dude and I was like, here's the deal, man. Um, I'm not like broke by any means. I'm not sure what money's going to look like for the next
Mm.
however long.
Yeah.
So I don't have, I can't like spend a bunch on all these supplements and I don't really know what I'm doing. I just know I probably need to, like, I heard protein is something I got to do maybe,
Yeah.
but where's the best bank? Where should I put my money into? And he's like, oh, dude, he's like, got you. He's like, yes, more protein. He's like, specifically, I want you to put as many eggs in your basket as you can, not literally eggs, but he's like, post workout. He's like,
Yeah.
so do this. And he wasn't like hammering me on the whole anabolic window thing, but he was like, if there's one behavior that you can change, He's like, first, I want you to start with like drink a shake after you work out.
Mm,
And then he's like, still have your regular 3 meals. So I was trying to give you some time to kind of think through.
yeah.
So that's some of my context. So take that kind of scenario and then go to running. If I'm going to increase my mileage and um, understanding that I probably need more calories, like more energy, where's the best place to put that?
I would probably say same as what he told you, like post
Okay.
run.
Okay.
If I had to choose one place, and this is under the assumption that people are eating before they run,
Mm.
which is a big
Oh.
assumption.
Hmm.
um, it feel like I don't know how much we want to get into like fasted running.
Yeah, so
I don't.
let's do this. Let me give you two scenarios. So
Okay.
let's go A and B. So
Yeah.
advice for runner A and advice for
Okay.
runner B. Okay? So let's make this super, let's try and narrow this down.
Yeah.
So runner A, we'll start with them. Runner A meets up with friends at a trail or at a park around 5:30 6 a.m.
Okay.
So not real jazzed about eating a whole lot before they run.
Yeah.
Religiously eats breakfast right when they get home, and we're not talking like a banana. Like they
Yeah.
eat breakfast when they get home, but it's not
Mm,
realistic to them to eat a full meal. Let's say. So they know that they need more fuel. They eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
okay.
Where would you recommend that they increase their calories potentially?
Well, I would recommend they eat something before the run. It doesn't have to be a full meal.
Okay.
Like when I before morning runs, I eat like the Bobo's PB&J
Okay.
little
Yep.
cookie things.
Hmm.
Bars are great, bananas are great, like half a bagel, whatever you can stomach really, applesauce,
So something
carbs.
so generally a carb source, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for women, I think we don't do men can get away with fasted running more than
Hmm.
we can.
Yeah.
Um, hormones and whatnot, you know. Uh,
Yeah. I feel you.
and
Since yeah.
other than that, I think it's kind of hard to say exactly where because I think people really need to follow their hunger cues. Like as you increase your activity, if you're in tune with your body, you'll notice, oh, I actually need a snack now versus like I could have made it well, I never can make it lunch to dinner. That's just like too much time span for me.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
some people can make it meal to meal and you might notice like, oh, actually I need a snack around, I don't know, 3 p.m. or
Mhm.
like late morning depending on when you eat your meals. So I would just say just being cognizant of your hunger level in general and not
Okay.
intentionally restricting, you know.
I like that.
Like
Okay.
yeah, don't get into the well, I normally only eat this much, so, like, why am I hungry? It's like, because 'cause you're doing more activity, so it's okay. I mean, it's always okay to eat more, but
Yeah.
especially when you're doing more activity.
Yeah, I like that thought process around first starting with identify where your hunger cues are, and that could potentially be one of the easier ways to do
Yeah,
it too. As I think about how easy it is for people to overthink, like specifically getting in something like more protein or
yeah,
hey, you don't need to be afraid of carbs and whatnot. So instead of making it all about, okay, well, it's got to be specifically here, it's more like, well, where are you right now currently hungry? And
mhm,
first, let's just get more calories in around the time that you're hungry. And then if you're noticing anything different performance wise, like I would say if somebody's starting to notice their performance really dropping off, like as they're increasing the mileage, they feel like they're getting really sluggish, then maybe that's where nutrient timing gets a little
yeah,
bit more serious. Now, would you say the same thing? Say somebody does like the post work run. I know what my suggestion would be, but somebody does like they work the 9 to 5 or 7 to 4 or what 8 to 4 or whatever it might be. So they do breakfast, lunch, dinner. So they go for a run right after work, and it's before dinner.
yeah, I would say same thing, eating something carby before just so you have energy going into your run, especially because 'cause you're
Yeah,
gonna eat a meal right after, so, like, you don't have to increase the meal unless you are feeling more hungry, um, but
yeah,
yeah, I think especially after work, like I was saying, like, if you eat lunch at a typical time around noon and you eat dinner at a typical time around, like, 6 or 7 for some people, like, 6 or 7 hours between meals is, in my opinion, way too long. I know some people are fine on that schedule, but, like, especially if
Yeah.
you're gonna run in between it, that's a really long time to, not feel hunger, to feel like your energy is, enough.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Occasionally, based on my work schedule, there will be times, just depending on like what we're dealing with and customer situations and different things like that. Sometimes, yeah, it can be really unpredictable, and I'm going like 6 hours or 7 hours. It doesn't happen often as it used to, just since
Yeah,
I've become more cognizant and more aware. But yeah, it can be really easy to all of a sudden you look up and it's like, snap, it's been like 6 hours. I can't, or I'm
yeah,
not going to say I can't imagine. I don't really want to put energy into trying to imagine a scenario where I'm like going to lift weights after work. Cause
mhm.
I'm just so like ingrained in my routine of I would literally would rather get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go work out
I
than
don't
I
doubt that.
would like go work out at 9 p.m. or 8
Ugh,
p.m. or something like that. Yeah,
yeah, no,
I would absolutely get up at 2 in the morning if that's what I needed to do. Cause no
yeah.
way.
Yeah,
Anyways,
after work
all
is
right.
hard, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing, like, again, doesn't have to be a meal. Bar's really great. I mean, if you really wanna get into it, you can get running gels, sports gels. They're really good because 'cause they're all carbs. Um, and then, if you ever decide later along you want to run farther, then you already have some gut
Yeah.
training.
There you
You know
go.
what works for your stomach.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll get into these last two. This one I think will be a pretty quick one. So I jotted
Yeah.
down the right shoes. Like still, so I do think it's still helpful to pay attention to what your footwear is
Oh, for sure.
when you're when you're running. So actually having shoes that are suitable. I don't know. What would you add to that? Or I don't know.
Uh, yeah, well, I think people overthink this and get too in the weeds, like, what kind of drop do I need? What brand do I need? Like, are the shoes comfortable? Do you want to run in them? It's really all it comes down to. Uh, and that, like, especially if it's you're running a couple times a week for a couple miles, I think shoes matter more if you want to train more seriously, you wanna run faster because that super shoes exist now, so that might be something you consider, but that'd be
Hmm.
specifically for, like, workouts and races, not your everyday easy run. But, yeah, always recommend if you don't know what shoes to wear, go into a running specific store, have them, like, watch you run. I don't want people to put too much stock into what comes out of that because sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, your foot strength is this, so you need a stability shoe," but, like, just get a shoe that feels comfortable,
Yeah.
and if you can get shoes from somewhere that lets you try them out, um, so that you can take them home, go on a run because you know, all of us when we go into a running store, we try on a shoe, we do the little trot around the store that looks silly, but it's not actually you're not actually running, and I know for me, I have really high arches, and it takes a couple miles for me to figure out, is this shoe going to make my feet go numb or not? So, obviously,
Yeah.
that's not everyone has that issue, but
Yeah.
it might take some miles to figure out, do these shoes feel good on my feet for an extended period of time? And it's helpful to be able to swap the shoes if you find out they don't work. But then once you find a shoe that does work, you can go crazy and buy them online, stock up.
Yeah. Okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense. All right.
Yep.
Let's see. And I will throw in before we get to this last one, that came into my thought process because sometimes I'll see the opposite where somebody has like running shoes that they're using for lifting. And I'm talking
Yeah.
like running shoes with a specific, like pretty significant heel toe drop.
You're talking about, like,
Which
Hokas.
yeah, yeah. It really comes into play, especially when somebody's doing like squatting or deadlifting.
Yeah.
And then they're using like Asics or Hokas or some sort of a running shoe. And I'm like, well, that might be contributing to what we've got going on here with form and
Yeah.
different things like that. So even I've worked with a handful of clients who, what is the specific Hoka? There's one that doesn't have as much. I think it's the Clifton or something like that.
Mm.
I still have yet to come across a pair of Hokas that I would recommend people lifting weights in at all.
I wouldn't
So
recommend
just a heads up on that.
for
Yeah.
most running shoes, mostly because they're not built to be flat.
Correct.
Like
Yeah,
they're
you're right.
built to rock you forward or absorb the force.
Yeah.
Um, there are some like Topo Athletic. Technically, it's a running shoe. It's what I wear for lifting, but it's a
Hmm.
zero drop that's flat.
Yeah.
And I would not wear it running,
Yeah.
but
Fair enough.
like that's just something to be cognizant of. If you feel unstable standing on one foot in a shoe,
Yeah,
when you feel stable standing on your foot without a shoe, you probably shouldn't lift in that shoe.
I would agree. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. All right. And then the last one is, yeah, still be aware of your overall recovery, which
Yep.
includes, well, I don't know if hydrate, well, yeah, just overall
Yeah.
recovery,
Hydration
hydration,
counts.
sleep, and mobility. So basically, the things that can and do impact your ability to get up and go run again. So those are things that I still do believe people need to be aware of,
Yeah.
even if they're just like a casual. Yeah. Anything that sticks out for you there though, with like maybe common misses or things that might be like gaps that runners at all levels should really be thinking about when it comes to just overall recovery or hydration, sleep, anything
I
like
think
that?
hydration is the biggest one. People don't realize even if you're as little as
My reminder.
2% dehydrated, it'll affect your running performance. Um, Obviously, if you're a more casual runner, you might not care about performance as much, but 2% dehydration is not really that much, and it'll just make your run feel harder. Like, if you don't care
Mm.
about performance, that's fine. But
Go crazy. Go for it.
yeah, but like, it's the same thing as when it gets hot, If you're dehydrated, if the temperature starts rising, running will feel
Mhm.
harder, whether or not you're trying to run a certain pace, just like existing during a run. So hydration is huge. And I feel like not a lot of people drink enough. And it can be hard figuring out how much you actually need to drink.
Yeah.
Um, so I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a whole help me understand episode about drinking water, like a whole episode dedicated to water. I'm not even joking.
Is that
Um,
was
what?
that the one where you wrote in your newsletter about making drinking water a habit
Yeah.
and
I talk about
what you
water
had
a
to do
lot.
to make it stick?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I also did a whole episode. I talk about water all the time. Like I drive my son. My son is 12, 13. How old is Mace now?
I
Snap.
think
He was
13.
born in 2012. No, so he's 12. Yeah.
Yeah, his birthday is not passed.
No, because it's end of August. Okay.
Yeah.
And for anybody out there who's judging me for not knowing how old my son is, you must not be a parent. So, um, anyways, yeah. So I'm on him like all the time. So I'm like, dude, drink a bottle of water. Can you handle one bottle of water
Yeah.
at least? Especially with being active. He plays sports and all sorts
Yeah.
of stuff. But yeah, with the water thing, something that I've been trying to impress upon clients is when it comes to the importance of water, it doesn't always have to be all about like it's just water. And that's one of the things I talked about in the episode. It's about like also your overall hydration level. So that does include electrolytes. And no, it doesn't always have to be like an
Yes.
element packet or something like that. Keeping in
No.
mind that electrolytes include things like, I don't know, potassium. So bananas can be helpful. Like there's getting in fruits and vegetables, so carbohydrates, so things that contain water, like that's
Yeah.
also helpful. So for, I have a couple of clients that are on more of like the petite side. So
Mhm.
if they were to go, because the general rule of thumb that I will typically use is try to hit a range of 50% of your body weight, divide that, like, so basically
Yep.
take your body weight. If you weigh 150 pounds, divide that by 2, which is what, 75. So
Yep.
then 75 ounces of water. And for some of them, they're just like, yeah, you can GTFO with that. Like, you know what? I hear you. And also they'll report back. Because a general framework that I'll use is try to get somewhere between 4 to 6 servings of fruits and vegetables, like some combination of fruits
Mhm.
and vegetables in a day. And if they're generally getting somewhere close to that 50%, and then they also have, let's say 4 servings of fruits and vegetables throughout a day, generally, and also they're not super restrictive where they're like deathly afraid of anything with sodium in it or anything like that.
Yeah.
They typically are fine. It's
Yeah.
just, coming across folks that are like, even getting in like 16 ounces of water is just like a chore. Like, man, this is not going to play well with as active as you are. And
Yeah.
you're like, your joints are not going to be loving you. Just like sit back and wait. It's not going to be pretty. So
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So
Let's
definitely that. How
see.
about sleep? Sleep
Sleep.
too.
We all know I love sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I yeah, I can't emphasize enough how important sleep is. We've talked about this so much.
We have.
Um yeah, some highlights from our discussions over the past 2 years
Right.
is to try to figure out your nighttime routine, and including your nighttime routine, anything that you need when you wake up to set yourself up for success.
Mm.
Um, and just take an audit of what your sleep is normally like, how much realistically you can spend time in bed, how can you increase your quality when you are in bed. Because I know you've talked a lot about, like, you probably can't be in bed for, like, the 8 to 9 hours that I can be, but you
Mm-mm.
can still get good quality sleep in the time
Yeah.
that you have
Yep.
instead of focusing on, like, how do I get 8 hours? It's like, how do I maximize the time that I realistically can spend in
Yeah.
bed?
Right now it's like
Yeah.
5 to 6. So it's like, what can I
Yeah.
do? But that 5 to 6, it's a glorious 5 to 6. So I'll take, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. There's not a whole lot of
Mm.
like laying there not being able to go to bed. Usually
Yeah,
within
that's
like,
fair.
yeah, usually but within about 8 minutes, boom, done.
Yeah. So doing things that help your sleep is really important. Um, and just being cognizant of it. I know that for a lot of people, it's not great to hear, but alcohol doesn't help your sleep, unfortunately.
Does not.
So if
Nope.
you're having struggles with sleep, that might be one area to look if you do like to indulge. Um, Another one is phone time, screen time.
Hmm.
Netflix, you gotta turn them off. Like,
Yeah.
give yourself a limit, turn them off. Uh, I would recommend trying not to, scroll in bed, but, some of y'all are gonna do what you're gonna do.
Yeah. All the
Which is a
normal
big
stuff
thing.
we talk about. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
but sleep is really important. It's when you recover, I don't know, like, that's how you feel good the next day.
Right.
And, oh, one thing I do wanna say about sleep is really important. I also think people should be wary of using sleep as an excuse not to do their training.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if this applies to our avatar as much, but I have seen instances where people are like, "Oh, well, I thought it was more important to get sleep, so I skipped my run." And then that becomes kind of a habit, you know? And it's like, okay, sleep is really important, but sometimes you do just kind of have to get up and do it.
Yeah.
If you want to prioritize your training, sometimes you have to sacrifice some sleep to get it done. Obviously, that should not be like every day, but then that goes back to what we were just saying. Like, if you are finding that you are skipping your training because you need more sleep, then, like, are you doing other things that are causing your sleep to run over into your training time? Do you have areas of improvement you could help out in that area so you can get your training done? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. As per the usual, none of these particular things typically happen in I call them like a silo.
Yeah.
So totally makes sense that, yeah, sleep was off. So, and that I've actually got one particular client who just messaged me He's like, yeah, sleep was a little bit off. I'm going to push today's workout into tomorrow and whatnot. And also when we zoom out, like that's one of the benefits of working with a coach. Like I know what their situation is, and we
Mhm.
specifically have their training built so that they can be flexible with it, because they typically, in the business that they're in right now, they're in their busy season of the year. So there are a lot of nights that end up running later than planned.
Yeah.
So our agreement is, hey, two lifting sessions per week and one cardio session per week. Like that's where you're at right now. And then, but yeah, it's always, usually it's not just about like, yeah, sleep sucked, so I'm just going to push it. It's
Yeah.
usually there's other things that have snowballed that are leading to that particular thing. So yeah, I totally feel you on that.
Yeah.
All
Or
right.
what I do
Oh,
see a lot is just poor time management,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. That's something I can definitely agree with. Like the nights where I'm up later than I should be is typically because I didn't have a great handle on my stuff in the morning. Because on
Oh, yeah,
days
you
where
talked about that before.
yeah, that's hands down like most of the time when I'm like not getting in bed until like 10 something.
Mhm.
And for frame of reference, like most of the time I'm up by like 3:34. So if I'm not
Yeah.
getting to bed until 10 something, it's typically because when I got up that morning, I was taking too long doing other stuff as opposed to like being focused, get my workout done, get some of my work done before going into work.
Yeah.
And yeah, hands down. So, all right. All right. I think that'll wrap it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to
Ooh.
just say we have mobility listed here.
Yeah. I
I
kind of
don't
figured that
do
was.
mobility as much as I should, but it is very important.
Yeah, I had that. So I had that one in there, and I think that when there's consistency with your warm ups, so if you're consistent with your warm up,
Yeah.
and then the quick snippet that I would have on this one when it comes to the mobility piece is that simple things can be done throughout the day. If you are somebody who does have running as part of your routine, no matter how casual you may be, whether you're sporty casual or business casual with your running, then especially if you are spending chunks of time during the day in a seated position, whether it be you're sitting in a vehicle because you're driving kids back and forth all the time,
Yeah.
you are sitting at a desk most of the day, that sort of a thing, you can take 2 to 3 minutes 2 to 3 times throughout the day to do some mobility work.
Yeah.
So there's a ridiculous amount of resources online. One of the main ones that comes to mind is Doc Gen Fit. So DOC Doc Gen Fit,
Mm.
and she has. I haven't looked at her page in a while. However, unless something's radically changed, she for years has had a butt ton of free resources and quick, like 2 minute, 5 minute things that literally anybody can do.
Mhm.
Some of them you don't even need to get up from your desk to do. And she does fantastic stuff. She's put series out about like stretches that you can do if you've been sitting on a plane for hours, like all sorts of stuff.
Mm.
So I believe it's still under Doc Gen Fit. So she's got some paid programs, but she has plenty of free stuff out there. So that's
Cool.
one that I'll usually recommend to people. So
Yeah. And I would just throw in like foam rolling or lacrosse ball, tennis ball rolling into that. Especially if you feel something is tight, like tight hips, just rolling a lacrosse ball against a wall on my hips it makes it feel so much better. So stuff like that is really useful. Rolling out your calves, big one for runners.
yeah,
It's usually calves and hips are like the biggest. Yep.
yeah. Okay. All right. So with that, we are going to bring this episode to a close. All right. So Kelly, you want to let them know if they would like to reach out, how they do
Yep,
that?
if you'd like to reach out, one you can leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. You can follow us on Instagram at Lifting Running Living Pod. You can comment on the highlight reel that we post about every episode. You can write comments on Spotify now. Or you can email us at liftingrunninglivingpod@gmail.com.
Word. All right. So that is going to wrap up episode number 51. So thank you, as always, for tuning in. to another episode of Lifting, Running, and Living. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.